Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And just a reminder that we are live on YouTube channel as well. So just a disclaimer. Also, if you want to share, just to note that this would be recorded also. So to be mindful in what you do share, but we definitely do encourage that. So welcome. This is session 3 of Parenting the Digitally Safe Teen. And I'm here on my own today. My lovely co-host, Miss Amber Calm, is delivering a domestic abuse intervention training to some professionals today, which is really great. And this is something that we offer a few times a year. So if you'd like that for yourself or your colleagues, feel free to register yourselves for the next one, which will be in April. So we're going right ahead into parenting the digitally safe teen. And as a reminder, I'm Anne-Marie Diaz, by the way. I'm the program coordinator at the Family Resource Center. And as a reminder, I want to share a little bit about what the Family Resource Center does outside of webinars like this.
We are a team of compassionate parenting practitioners.
I'm going to just turn up my volume. Let's try that again.
We are a team of compassionate parenting practitioners offering confidential, strength-based individual parenting sessions. Convenient. Our appointments are set based on parents' convenience, targeting unique and diverse family needs and dynamics. We are professional. Our parenting programs are research and evidence-based programs designed to help parents achieve family goals and feel confident in their parenting choices. Our programs are fully funded by the Cayman Islands government for all parents raising children in the Cayman Islands. To learn more about the services offered, register today and be supported towards the happiest and healthiest family life possible.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, that is something we do on the regular. We're offering individual parent sessions, and then we have several programs, family and parenting programs that we roll out several times a year. So right now we're preparing for January's cohort. We'll be offering several different parenting programs, and pretty much they support various family dynamics that might be taking place. That can include separation or divorce. That could include parents wanting to understand a bit more about ADHD. And we also have a new workshop that will be starting next year called Fearless. And this is designed for parents who are raising children that might exhibit anxious thoughts and behaviors. And they want some more tools to support their child developing resilience and managing those behaviors, and that they can use themselves because we all experience anxiety. Now, today, session 3, as I've said, we are going into online safety, cyberbullying, and risk prevention. It will be quite a rich presentation, at least I'm hoping you feel that way. But I also want to just provide a disclaimer that a lot of the content that we will be delivering today, there are strong themes. We will talk about things like sextortion and suicide briefly. But these are very important for us as parents to ensure that our awareness of these themes are there, because this is all surrounding our children's safety. But I want to just put that forward so that participants are aware if there's anything distressing potentially, or if you are just not in that space to review such heavy themes at this present time. I would advise maybe watching this later on our YouTube channel. And we will share that out on our Facebook page also. So just a disclaimer, but if you feel, no, I'm okay, I want to be aware, I want to know all these things, then please stay tuned. Now we're starting off with easy stuff after I've said that disclaimer. Somewhat easy things. So this really is kind of a little bit of a view into the dictionary of all the tech terms that exist. This is certainly not the finite list. There's so much out there. And it's also really important for us as parents to do our own research. And because sometimes we'll overhear our children using slang or certain like modern language with their peers, and we might not know what that is. We might even ask them what is that, but we don't necessarily get a clear answer. So it is good to just research. And I even did, we obviously do a lot of research before we offer these presentations, but I also looked into what are some common slang terms. Obviously we abbreviate a lot when we're texting or communicating with others. So it's really good to research yourself and look these things up. But these are some kind of common things that are taking place in the digital world now. And some of this you might already know. If you do, this is just a refresher. But there's things like deep fakes. We might have heard that already. So this is where people are using videos and sound recordings to pretend to be someone. So there's a lot in terms of the news as they share about the way that persons who aren't used to this, usually persons who are elderly that aren't used to this way, but parents of all ages are getting caught with this, where it sounds as if their child is on the phone or even their face is being used, and they're being often used to scam people out of something, sending details for their college student who they believe has just called them. And actually it's not, and it's a scam. So this is something that's been taking place. But deepfakes are also used to pretend to be someone else and in a way to embarrass them. We also know artificial intelligence is on the rise. A lot of us are probably using it, and it's a very useful tool. We have things like ChatGPT that helps us to formulate emails or communicate and things like that. But there's also the negative side of it, right? Where this is also being used as a tool to potentially cause harm. And there's been a lot in the news lately, global news lately, about the way artificial intelligence is being used in certain apps and even mental health apps where they're not designed appropriately and even enabling some really harmful behaviors, especially in young people. So this is something for us as parents to be aware. What are the kinds of apps and AI that our children are using? Doxing is a term that speaks about the way in which we are finding or publishing private information about someone on the internet without their permission. So there's somehow we've got it, whether it's a friend that's told us something in secret or whatever the case may be, and we're putting that private information out there publicly. Usually it's done to humiliate someone. A dark post is usually done to highlight something or sell something to someone on usually on social media, and advertisers don't necessarily have this same post on their actual page, or it's not out there as organic content. So again, it's usually used, especially the term dark post, it's usually used by advertisers to in a harmful way or to sell something maybe to a young audience could be an example of it too. Cyberbullying is definitely on the rise. This is something that globally is being talked a lot about. Bullying used to happen face to face. It still does, but our children's generation are seeing where it's just nonstop, and it's harassment, it's insulting, and people and it's a criminal behavior too, which we can get into a little bit. Chatbots. Children are using chatbots and creating artificial relationships, as they're called. And this can be really detrimental to young people's mental health when you are relating to a software, essentially, not a human being that has genuine feelings and human emotions also. Trolling is probably the longest or oldest term I think that's on here. we may have heard where someone is really just purposefully trying to annoy or be offensive, which is pretty much teetering on becoming a cyber bully. But trolling was the common term that we've used. Sexting is where we're using text messages or some way of sending information that we hope to sexually entice someone, right? That's probably quite a common one parents are used to. And then there's Finsta or Rinsta. This means a fake or real Instagram. So you might hear where children are saying, oh, that's just my Finsta, that's just my fake account, that's just for my parents. Not necessarily terms used necessarily here locally, but they may in certain circles. So very important for parents to be aware of. And like I said, this is not a finite list, but just something to capture the various common terms that are being used and shared. Now, of course, there's a lot of online risks. We know this as parents, but sometimes when we're face to face with the full list of all that's there, and I couldn't even fit it all on one slide. This would be several slides full of what is online or presents as online risks for our children. And it includes the content that our children could have access to, but it also includes contact risks, also that can become also harmful in terms of it becoming in-person risks. But this is including exposure to inappropriate material. It might be explicit. It might be extremist ideologies. And I'll just go over very quickly, because in terms of extremist ideologies, obviously people are here, they're attending this online safety presentation. And I'm going to deliver this again on Friday here through the Red Cross. But I do encourage parents who may not know what blue pill, red pill, black pill is all about. This is great information. It's quite a lot of information, but really good information for parents to understand what this misogynistic radicalization is all about. It's designed for parents, teachers, and youth workers. So some of this may be known by people already. If you've watched the Netflix show Adolescence, that really goes through a realistic portrayal of a young man who found himself completely in this whole misogynistic radicalization, and it ends up really devastating for this family, for this child, and what he chooses to do. And I won't give it away if you haven't watched it, but it is something that you can watch, but you can also attend this safeguarding lunch and learn this Friday also. And I highly recommend it. So I'm gonna, this has been up where you can scan the QR code at the bottom, and I'll come back to this at the end too, so that you have an opportunity to scan, but definitely highly recommend you attending this or looking into that also. But that's becoming increasingly common also. And so having that strong relationship, parent-child relationship, is the best defense, as Amber and myself have been echoing the last few weeks. But other things that are occurring online, there's almost an enabling kind of behavior taking place online that almost enables the mental health symptoms of a young person and exacerbates them, and it can get worse. And we've talked a little bit about that before. But as I've said, there's cyberbullying taking place, harassment, there's scams, there's online predators. A child could accidentally download something malicious and have a virus on their computer, which can also have other ulterior motives. Sometimes it's not just a virus, sometimes it's a way to take information that might be stored on that child's laptop. Or there's also been information shared about how a predator can access the laptop camera and be able to turn it on and off. So not to scare, but definitely to educate parents, and for us to be aware of these things is the best way for us to be empowered and make the right decisions that we want to as parents. So again, the Safeguarding Lunch and Learn is this Friday. You can scan the QR code that is on the screen now. And again, this is recorded and saved on our YouTube channel if you ever want to revisit. But you can feel free to call the Red Cross also to get further information, or you can email us at frc@gov.ky and I can share the link. Now, the next video, I gave a disclaimer earlier, but I do want to just highlight again that some of this content will start to get quite significant. And so this next video shares about sextortion and how a young person could find themselves exposed to this in the digital realm.
Hey Zach, it's me. I can't stop thinking about you. I know you've been waiting for this for a while. I wanted to give you something special. Who are you? Why are you doing this?
So again, not pleasant, but this is something that happens, and it's important for us as parents to be aware of it and potentially prevent it. And certainly with our teens, we can educate them on this too. We might be quite surprised at what a teen does or does not know. Our teens, we might think our teens are, well aware of things like this and dangers like this. But until we have that frank conversation with them, or even just ask them what their thoughts are about something like this, we won't really know what their knowledge is or lack thereof. And I recall, as we go into the schools and we educate based on school invitation or request, we share information from the Monique Burr Foundation workshops. And a lot of it is quite mild information, just really aimed at keeping children safe online and in other spaces. And I'm always quite shocked at what a 16-year-old will put up their hand to ask or say. A lot of times it's incredible misinformation and information that could also be quite harmful. Them just being innocent and ignorant to certain things and just not knowing. So having these conversations with your child is important and vital if you want to ensure that they are operating safely online. So this is something that happens. I'm also going to turn over to cyberbullying. So as we talked about the topic of today, we're going into quite heavy topics. This is another one, and very common and something to really consider when it comes to talking to your teen about cyberbullying.
Cyberbullying. New research study from Pew finds nearly half of teens in the U.S. say they have been bullied or harassed online. It can take many forms, including physical threats, the spreading of false rumors, and receiving unsolicited explicit images. Jamie Howard is a senior clinical psychologist from the Child Mind Institute, and she's here with us in studio to discuss. Good morning. Good to see you. Good morning. So, Jamie, I know that when I think about the online bullying that teens go through today, I was bullied as a child, and the saving grace was I could leave school and I could go to the safety and comfort of my home. Mm-hmm. But this online bullying happens 24 hours a day for children who are targeted. And most parents don't know mm-hmm. that their kids are being bullied because they're not very connected to their kids' social media networks.
That's right.
So what to do?
So I always recommend that parents stay connected to their kids and to their social media. So when they start out around age 13, I say to parents, install parental monitoring software and tell your kids that you're doing that, because you want to make sure that they learn how to be kind, respectful, and really understand that the digital footprint is permanent. It could always be found and it could affect them later in life. And so you want to monitor them to make sure that they are behaving appropriately, and then you can give them the freedom that they want after a trial period.
Parental monitoring software, what exactly does it allow parents to do? It feels a little Big Brother-ish.
It is. That's why I say tell your kids. We don't want this to be secretly you're going into your kid's bedroom and reading their journal without their consent. But this is about establishing good practices. And so what parents can do is on their own device, they can see everything that their kids are up to. They can see what they're posting and what they're receiving. And then they're so much more equipped to intervene if something happens, if someone says something inappropriate, and they can guide them in how to respond.
You know, each type of trauma deserves its own individual respect. And Vlad, you alluded to it. Those that might be being bullied in person are dealing with trauma, but you're also dealing with trauma if you're being bullied online. I want to speak from the perspective of some parents, and maybe you've heard this before, where they say, well, if my kid's getting bullied online, I'm going to tell them to get offline. I'm going to tell them to put down their phone. They don't have to get bullied. They can run away from their TV or tablet or phone. What do you say to parents that think that way?
Unfortunately, that won't really work because the bullying can still happen. It's just that your child isn't exactly reading it and hearing about it in real time, but they're going to hear about it and know about it in other ways. And we know that rates of depression and anxiety are increasing for kids at this age, and suicide's a leading cause of death. And unfortunately, the cat's out of the box, and we can't tell kids you may not have social media or they'll suffer socially.
Makes sense.
And then hear it third hand, which is even worse sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
So when should parents intervene? Because some parents may think, this might be an important experience for my child to learn how to be resilient through this, but at the same time, you want to protect your kid.
Yeah, there's severity. There's degrees of severity, right? So if explicit images are being sent of your child, that's actually illegal, and that you want to go to the authorities for something like that. If someone is calling your child a mean name, maybe that's something that you can teach them how to hold their head high and really connect with their allies, their good friends, spend a little more time with good friends in real life. And sometimes you want to go to other parents. Teenagers don't always love this. They usually hate this. And yet still, the stakes are high, right? With depression and anxiety on the rise.
So here's a question. What if your child is the bully?
Right. So kids make mistakes, right? Like the base rate of being a sociopath is very low. So chances are that this is a good kid who's making a mistake, who doesn't have sufficient guidance. And so this is an opportunity for you to say, okay, I got to take a step back and teach my child really explicitly what I expect from him or her. We know from a study at the Harvard Ed School that parents tend to communicate to kids that their happiness and achievement matters more to them as parents than their kindness. And we have to flip that and say, it matters to me that you're kind and respectful
Thank
online.
you so much,
That's
Jamie
good.
Howard, for being here.
So that was quite a quick and fast-paced interview. Some of that you may have missed, or for me, I love to rewatch fast-paced videos again to really process them and absorb. So I highly recommend Child Mind Institute. We love the content that they share. It's always research-based, evidence-based, really valuable stuff. So definitely going to their YouTube channel. They have a great website and blog. As I think shared in previous sessions, that they can even offer individualized phone consultations, and yes, even to us over here. So that's something I'd highly recommend. But I'm curious to hear what your thoughts were. What are kind of your instant kind of takeaways from some of the information that she shared? I know for me, I really appreciated the way she addressed our teens that might be engaging in bullying behavior. I find sometimes parents, there's a lot of shame around that, and parents feel embarrassed by that. But it's just it's very common, and especially for teens who are experimenting with identity and who am I, they'll often kind of flip along the spectrum. Really just learning about boundaries and understanding. So they're usually not really intending to be harmful. And sometimes it's just a way to kind of get maybe certain pressures or stressors or things out, not in a very pleasant way, and certainly there's room to support them and navigate them to kinder ways of communicating. But anything that people would like to share, go ahead into the chat box. Your takeaways from that, questions. Really talking about this is the best way to really engage and understand what's going on and to enrich everybody's understanding, because I'm constantly learning too. This is such a fast-paced industry. Once you learn one thing, all of a sudden in the digital realm that's so fast, there's something else and something new to learn about that's helping to safeguard our children. All right, so I'll go on to this again, disclaimer, this is quite an upsetting, quite a devastating news story. So if this is something you would not like to see and hear about, certainly just pause or mute me and come back if you want. But this is kind of an extreme story of where a child's relationship with an artificial intelligence chatbot became incredibly harmful. But the parent has also used it in a way to really help to educate and support other parents in their understanding of this.
NBC5 responds, I didn't know this, but maybe you did, that there are companies out there using AI to create fictional characters that people are interacting with, even kids could be interacting with.
A Florida mom is suing an AI company saying her 14-year-old son had a relationship with one of these bots. She believes it caused his depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. The mom is sharing her story tonight in hopes that other families never experience this type of loss. And we do want to warn you, this story may be upsetting. Here's Kate Chappell.
Oh, my firstborn baby.
For 14 years, her son was her pride and joy, a good student, star athlete, a great big brother.
He came home from school like any normal day.
For Megan Garcia, February 28, 2024 began like any other day, but ended with her 14-year-old son, Sewell, dying in her arms.
After Sewell died, the police called me and told me that they had looked through his phone, and when they opened it, the first thing that popped up was character AI.
What Megan didn't know for the last 10 months was that her son was in a virtual relationship, not with a person, but with a fictional character powered by artificial intelligence he accessed through a platform called Character AI. And although the platform reminds users that the characters are made up, Megan says for Sewell, it felt real.
The last conversation, she's saying, I miss you, and he's saying, I miss you too. He says, I promise I'll come home to you soon. And she says, yes, please find a way to come home to me soon. And then he says, what if I told you I could come home right now? And her response is, please do, my sweet king.
Moments later, Megan says her son walked into the bathroom and died by suicide. Police photos show his phone near where he was found.
I have seen that teenagers are engaging in these apps more and more.
Dr. Kanan Mudvadia is the medical director for Behavioral Health Services and Psychiatric Emergency Room Services at CDH Northwestern Medicine. She has no connection to Sewell or his story, but she sat down with NBC5 Response to discuss the ways AI can impact kids' mental health.
So teenagers still have areas of development in their brain, especially judgment, critical thinking, impulse control. Those are still developing.
Dr. Mudvadia recommends initiating an open conversation with your kids about AI apps.
Now, you can mention that you've heard a lot about AI chatbots and AI companions and ask your child, are you using that?
Look for warning signs in your child's behavior.
Would be if a child would be spending a lot more time online, believing that this AI companion is their best friend, their center support, shying away from peers, doing worse in school.
If you see this happening, she says talk with your child about your concerns. Encourage spending more time with friends and family.
Reaching out to their pediatrician is always an option. And if there's a very large safety concern, then actually the first stop would be to go to the emergency room.
Megan's story isn't over. She's suing Character AI, claiming the company launched their product without adequate safety features and with knowledge of potential danger.
Okay, I'll pause it there because it really goes into the various efforts mom is making in hopes of getting justice for her son. And I'm just going into the Q&A. I see someone's asking, didn't know that half the children or teens in the US experience cyberbullying. What about Cayman? Wonder how many children experience this. Yeah, great question. And actually, that's something I should have included here. It is something that we talk about quite a lot during October in particular. We had stood up our anti-bullying campaign, and we went into the schools, we educated parents also. And one of the pieces of information we used was actually from the National Drug Council. Every couple of years, they do a youth survey with all the adolescents in Cayman Islands, including private and public schools. And they gather information, mostly to do with substance use. They really have an aim or a goal to really understand children's substance use, how early that starts, which in the Cayman Islands, they're starting as young as 11 when it comes to alcohol consumption. And a couple of years ago, they asked about bullying behaviors because they know that the way in which how a child's mental health, the way they're being treated, and bullying can play a part in terms of their potential consumption of drugs or alcohol. And it was revealed that more than half of the persons who took that survey in the Cayman Islands, adolescents, said it was about 58%, if I'm not mistaken, 58% of them had some form of bullying in their life, whether that was cyberbullying, in-person bullying, but they received some form of bullying. And in most of those cases, the girls felt more comfortable to report more than the boys did. That again is how we're I suppose, raised and socialized in terms of gender. And I was quite surprised that it was lower than I thought it would be. But one of the ways what we highlighted for young people was that although it might say just a bit more than half of the persons who took this had experienced bullying, we do know that most young people are exposed or at least see it. And so we speak about the bystander, being a bystander to bullying. And if we don't say anything, or we don't want to be an informer, we don't want to tattletale, whatever the statement is that we've learned, we become essentially part of that problem and exacerbate bullying in our schools and our communities. So we were always encouraging our young people to become upstanders, which could just be reporting it and having that intention to just keep everybody safe and keep their community and their schools safe, not to get anyone in trouble. And a lot of times, whoever is engaging in that bullying behavior, they really just need support. They need help. So you're doing them a favor. So thank you for that question. Yeah, so it is very common. And so we could see where we're actually quite aligned with the US in terms of those statistics, which is quite alarming. But I don't know if that's surprising to anyone, but thank you so much for engaging and asking that question. I know that this was quite a heavy news report. I don't know if anyone wants to share their thoughts. I know when I first saw it, as a parent myself, it hurt my heart to know that this parent had gone through this, that this poor young man, child of hers had gone through this also. But again, raising awareness for us as parents to know that these are things. And so we're going to talk about today too, is how do we prevent things like this happening as a parent, right? So we'll talk about digital citizenship. So whether we like it or not, we don't just live here in the Cayman Islands. We're not just Caymanians or residents of Cayman. We also are digital citizens. We represent ourselves or our family, our workplaces, our schools in how we come across online. especially if we are operating as ourselves. But even if we're using fake accounts or pretending to be someone else, we're essentially putting something out there into the world, right? And so as parents, we want to, again, going back to that relationship, your best parenting strategy is the relationship you have with your child. So essentially, the best parenting strategy you have is no strategy. If you have a strong relationship with your child, they're more likely to cooperate, follow your guidance and your leadership, right? So always go back to your relationship with your child. If you feel like you're not getting through to them, they're not listening to you, instead of more rules and more consequences, go back to, I'm just going to prioritize having a great relationship with my child, and the other stuff will sort itself out. I promise you. And it's not necessarily easy, but that's what we're here for too, to support you in that journey. But again, how we engage, what are we sharing with our teens? What are our expectations, right? Do we just hand over the phone and the laptop and they can just do and go and do whatever? The earlier professional advised that you have a very open conversation, that in order to keep you safe, I'm installing parental observing software onto this laptop, onto this phone. There's apps that exist that can do this. Some are paid, some are free. But again, do your research, see what works best for you as a parent, but review these and what you want to do first before you go ahead and introduce something. But you want to definitely have that safety measure. It's not about trust or invading their privacy. It's about making sure that they're remaining safe online. So having that frank conversation with them, which again, depending on where you're at with your relationship with your teen, there might be a few steps before you get there, and we can support with that also. You want to raise young people who are aware of these things, right? Did that young person even understand really what a AI chatbot was and what was going on there and the impact that could have for him? Probably not. I'm sure if he understood, he might not have engaged in that. But sometimes information isn't enough. And so that's why parents need to have these safety protocols where they can be the person who's agreeing to whatever apps are being downloaded on a phone, whatever content they're potentially being exposed to. And we're not always necessarily there or supervising, but as much as we can, we should be, so that we know exactly what's happening. So having these softwares definitely helps. And again, information is power. Just as I'm sharing information with you, which may be new to you, sharing this with your child in an age-appropriate way, because I know there might be parents of younger children here also that are being quite proactive. But you want to ladder what you're bringing and exposing your child to. You want to have control over what is being agreed to. They can't just have free reign to go out and buy a game that's mature just because everybody else is playing it. Again, what your family expects and what your family stands for and your unique family values is what matters most. And going back to the question about cyberbullying, that particular campaign, our Stood Up campaign, anti-bullying campaign, our main theme was all around kindness, and the way in which we interact online and in person should be kind, lawful, safe, respectful, responsible. And so if we're sharing with our teen to simply use kindness, that really helps to set the stage that if we're practicing kindness in the way we're presenting online, engaging online, we're more than likely going to be then operating within a lawful and safe and responsible realm also. So simple language like, I expect kindness, I expect that the way we share and present ourselves online is in a kind way, and the way we express ourselves to others is in a kind way. That simple language can be really easy for children to understand that what is right and what is wrong. Now, any questions? I know I might be going quite fast. Any questions or any thoughts, any comments you'd like to share? You're welcome to disagree with me also. I think that's always great because then we're critically thinking about these things. So feel free anytime, anything that pops into your head, you want to put down a question, a comment, feel free, please. Now, this is a bit of a checkbox for parents. You're welcome to just screenshot this because sometimes it's really overwhelming as parents. Oh my gosh, how do I keep my teen safe? What do I do? Sometimes we get information overload. But this is a nice checkbox that can really help us. So again, going back to our relationship with our child, really maintaining open communication. Don't assume that they know things or that they're operating in a safe way based on their behavior in person, because sometimes our children can present in a certain way with us. And then we might hear from the teacher, oh, they're doing this and that. And you think, who is this child? That's not the child I know. But our children learn to do that and to kind of present in different ways in different environments. So it's good to really have a good pulse on who your child is and how they show up in different environments, maintaining open communication, being very frank and open about things in an age-appropriate way. Outside of this, obviously, this is just an hour worth over 4 weeks of information. And like I said, this is just an ever-evolving industry. So it's so good to really do our own research as parents before we purchase anything or agree to a download on the phone. You know, really, what is this Fortnite all about? What is my child getting exposed to? Going on Common Sense Media and getting a proper breakdown of what these things are about is so, so helpful. Especially when we think we know, because sometimes we think, oh, this is a harmless game. We'll just go and download. For me, that was Roblox. So at one point, I thought Roblox was fine. It was harmless. I went to download it. And before I hit complete download, I thought, let me just review because I know that other young people are using this. But is it really safe? So I did my own research, found out it's actually quite dangerous in what children could be potentially exposed to. So that was a big no-no. That was not allowed in our home. So, and it could be as easy as that. We're just tired. We're innocently thinking it's fine. And actually we find out just through a little bit of learning that something could potentially be harmful to our children. Review what your privacy controls are on your TV, your gadgets, your phones. Your child doesn't need to have everything accessible to them. They do not need to have their own personal devices. Again, you as the parent, you get to agree to what they can and can't have. And it also should be based on trust and what you feel they can responsibly do and how they use it, right? Having these things out in the open, in the living room where everyone can kind of supervise and see what's going on is really helpful. Just having a big no-no to things going into the bedroom, especially at night. A teenager is 100% going to wake up. They're going to play that game. They're going to send those messages. They're going to go on TikTok. These things are addictive. We know this. So having these rules, although again, can be challenging and we can support you in baby steps to that, these are things to think about. Teach critical thinking too. A child who learns to really think and problem solve and think for themselves rather than just accepting whatever is being thrown at them at face value. There's so much false information that goes out there. We see it a lot. I'll receive a lot of TikToks from various persons, and a lot of it is, it's rubbish really, but people, because of the tone of the AI's voice or whatever it might be, they're taking it as this is gospel, this is good research, and they're spreading false information. So it's important that we're critically thinking, and we're also teaching our children to really critically think about the content they're looking at. Protecting their identity, very important. You as a parent should be the one to allow and say yes, yay or nay when they can be allowed on social media. And also, again, you want parameters around that. You want your child to be educated and especially know what the family expectations are. the rules of engagement, as it were, when it comes to the way they interact online. Big discussions about things, talking about things, reporting and blocking, very important. Something we highlighted for young people when we were in the schools was always screenshot evidence, because a common thing is young people, they see that they're being harassed or there's cyberbullying taking place, they go immediately to block that person, but then they've potentially lost evidence as to what was being done that was harmful. So educating your child to always screenshot evidence before you report and block, because in the event that that is a criminal offense, you want that evidence to support the police and potentially going to prosecution, right? Empower your child to seek help. They should know who the safe adults are in their life, and maybe simply asking them, when I say safe adult, who do you think of when you're at home or at school? Who comes to mind? Who's your safe adult at school? If something were to come up, if mom or dad aren't there, what are you going to do? That's very important information to know. You might think it's their teacher, but they might not have a great relationship with their teacher. They might actually really like the music teacher, who they only see maybe once a week, but they have a great relationship with them. So it's really important to know and empower them to seek help, to not suffer in silence or alone, which a lot of young people, especially teens, tend to be quite insular and focused on their peer groups, and sometimes pull away from their parents. That's why we can't shut up. We have to talk openly about things and make sure that they know that we're there. Sometimes teens tend to pull away. We don't want to then also pull away, because then we're not feeling important. We need to know we are important, whether our child shows those signs that they agree that we're important, we are. And so us maintaining contact, entering their world, showing interest in their interests, showing up for them as much as we can, very important to ensuring that relationship is maintained as much as possible. And good for us too, for a child to have positive online experiences. Yes, we're talking a lot about the dangers and the risks, to ensure that we're informed, but technology is there. We're right now engaging using technology. There are so many positives, and so many positive online experiences that our child can also have, but we want to ensure that we're laddering and walking with them and journeying with them as they continue to create and develop their digital citizenship, as it's called, right? And we're guiding them essentially to grow up into healthy, responsible adults in that in-person world, but how they operate online is just as important. So, final key parenting points, but again, we're open to discussion. Please feel free to ask questions, make comments, disagree with me, point out something that hasn't been shared today is absolutely welcomed. But teenagers can come across contact from inappropriate persons, persons that wish them harm, various behaviors and conduct, and there's risks when they're online. That is a matter of fact. Us knowing that and protecting them as parents is vital. And teenagers need to keep building skills and knowledge to identify and manage online safety risks independently. We are not always going to be there. And just as we're raising them into adulthood, we want to know that we want to feel confident that they're confident when they're going online. And so how we role model, how we operate online, what we know, how we continue to research and educate ourselves, very important. And always sharing that information with our children, talking to them about online reputation. I did a presentation recently with UCCI and shared with them, a lot of them were getting ready for employment and talking and preparing for things like interviews. And I said to them, I sit I'm not in human resources, but in my position, I have a hand in who we hire, who is coming into our organization, and we instantly will go onto social media. We will see, how is this person presenting? Do they have an online presence? And it can be used in favor or against someone. And so especially them as young people who favor social media and online presence, the way in which they show up can really harm them or help them when it comes to employment. So that is something to definitely raise with our teens as they're looking into employment or work experience opportunities. And even if you delete something, it could still exist or be traced some way. So it's important to just make sure whatever you're putting out there, that you're comfortable with it. And that essentially are those main points of today. But I am going to bridge back to our first few sessions where we talked about creating collaborative SMART goals with our teen. We did talk a lot about starting with ourselves. What is something we want to work on? Maybe just reviewing in the way in which we operate online. How much screen time are we absorbing? What content are we taking on a lot? How long are we spending on social media? Because all of this is getting potentially modeled to our child. And if we're more self-aware and comfortable with how we're operating, we'll be able to have a really good, candid, really conversation with our child about this too. And as opposed to just telling our child, look, this is what we're doing, these are our new rules, and that's it. It's really important to have collaborative goals where our child is a part of the conversation. So that could look or sound like, I feel like as a family, we've been spending a lot of time online. I want us to really be healthy family. I want us to spend more time together and less time online. What do you think? Is that something you would like to see? What are your thoughts around, do you feel like mommy's always on the phone, that type of thing? So it's really, really good information to get to learn what our child's perspective is and hear from them. When they have buy-in and when they feel heard, they're going to have more buy-in to these new goals, these new expectations that we're hoping the family will take on. And a really good SMART goal could be that whatever the rules are or the expectations that we have for our family and how we engage online, that we make it an expectation for all of us. So this isn't our teens rule. This is a family rule. This is how we all engage. This is how we all participate. And we can even be quite open. I know sometimes I have to take my work home with me. And so I'll say things to my children like, mommy's going to go onto her work computer for a little bit and I'll say for the next hour, because I have to complete some work. When I'm done, we are then going to have some playtime. We're going to have some cuddle time, whatever it might be. And that's important because then I'm hoping my children feel valued by me saying that and highlighting what I'm doing. And we have another comment. So that's a really good idea. Allow or collaborate with children and teens making goals or rules. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, if we're constantly telling them what to do, we're going to be the nag and badgering them, right? But by essentially encouraging their independence and their problem solving and their buy-in to these things, we're creating good digital citizens. So in the first session, we did share this PDF. It's a very simple PDF. There's loads of different other SMART goals and apps and things that are out there. But essentially, this just breaks down the SMART goals where we're really just thinking about what are we really aiming for. And so sometimes with this, some short-term goals might be the best thing. Or you might have an overall, like, this is my long-term goal. So in order to get there, I think maybe this week, this is what we're going to do. And we'll revise next month and maybe amp it up a little bit. But I put here, it's just a sample that for a particular family, maybe they just want to lower social media time to an hour a day. And on weekends, have screen-free days. once a week. So maybe that's every Saturday. We're just away from our phones completely until after dinner. It's just an idea. You don't, no family has to take this on. This is just a thought. And then how they stay or monitor that could just be by having an external timer, or it could be a particular app on the phone that pings and highlights that usage is over for today. They can also just review how they're doing every week or every month as a family. And this could just, be sitting, playing dominoes, eating dinner together and just chatting about how they feel, how they're doing, right? Family meetings and discussions are very important. And the R bit, the relevant bit, could just be, I just want us to be healthy. I want us to be informed. I want us to be operating in a good and meaningful way as a family. And that's why we're doing this. And time bound, I would say, to really keep it fresh, maybe reviewing each week is really useful, or at very least monthly. And it could be that this is the goal, and that's it. 1 hour a day, we're going to cold turkey it, and we're going to try this out. Or it could be staged. It could be, I've been looking at my apps. I realize I spend 5 hours, or my teen is spending 5 hours a day. I'm going to just take that back to 4 hours for this week. Let's aim at hitting that goal. And then the next week, we're going down another hour to 3 hours, right? So again, it really depends on the unique family, the unique members of that family. But usually baby steps are good, especially if our family or our teen are spending what we feel is an exorbitant amount of time. But again, time and the quality of what we're doing, that's different. We might be on social media for an hour, but maybe we're really engaging and we're chatting with really healthy friends and our family members, then that's great. Maybe it's okay that we spend 2 hours then, right? So a lot of times it's more about the quality of our interaction online, sometimes even more so than the amount of time. So again, it really depends on you as a family, what your goals are, what is most important to you. And we are here to support you to whatever that goal might be. And we can also highlight a lot of the information that we've shared here today. If you want more individualized support, you want to become a full-fledged client of ours, you can go ahead and scan the code that is on the QR code that's on your screen now, or take a screenshot and save it for later. Or if you're already a client, feel free to connect with one of your parenting practitioner and ask to review some of the content that has happened here today, or the last few sessions, and come up with a goal with their support, maybe, of what might make the most sense for you and your family. And if you're not a parent, if you've joined us more in a professional capacity, feel free to join our WhatsApp channel where you can stay updated with our many, many different parenting programs and events. We do a lot in our community, and there's something happening all the time. So feel free to join our WhatsApp channel to stay up to date with all our happenings. And sometimes we just share random parenting tips also, which can be really nice refresher for us as parents. And a few resources that have been used today. Highly recommend parents do their own research, go to Child Mind Institute, go to American Psychological Association, go to Monique Burr Foundation, go to all of these to really see what else is being shared. This is not a finite amount of information, certainly not. There's so much more to learn, and specific to your unique teen also. Definitely Common Sense Media, loads of parent breakdowns when it comes to particular games, TV shows, even books, anything and everything you can think about. It really highlights and takes parents through, holds our hands through everything, really. It even goes through YouTube, how to set up a YouTube Kids account, social media, the risks, everything. Raising Children, Australia is also very good. Australia has loads, they seem to really be on the ball when it comes to research about families and parenting. So highly recommend them. And that is it essentially for today. I have our website, phone number, and email up. Again, I'm going to leave us on a little bit in the event anyone wants to ask questions, comment. I'm going to pull up our evaluation. Also, please let me know. We thrive off of feedback. Please let me know if you found today poor, satisfactory, or very good. It helps. And also put in the comments, has there been something that you haven't heard that you feel is really important for you as a parent to learn about? Please put that in the chat or the Q&A. We have one more session next week. We'll be inviting a specialist who's a part of the cybersecurity task force here in Cayman and the incredible work that they're doing. So that'll be really useful for families to attend and to hear from her, Miss Georgia Scott. And I'll stay on just to see if there's any questions or feedback. Yeah, I have a comment here by a parent, didn't hear about the topic of rage baiting. That's a form of bullying used to cause rage in people and children by means of comments or posts. Absolutely. I think a important bit about rage baiting, and thank you for raising that. See, there's so much to this area that, yeah, we'd be here for hours and hours and days to really go through everything. But I think an important bit about rage baiting or anything that comes from the behaviors of others online for our teens is to highlight that you are only in control over your behavior and the way in which you appear online. And talking quite frankly that people do this, people rage bait to get you to that place. And of course, teens are impulsive, they have stronger emotions. So, and people know that, like you said, but teaching our children self-regulation strategies by how we practice emotional boundaries too, knowing that this is their problem, not mine, right? This is what I stand for. This is how I operate. And knowing what are the red flags to rage bait. And if you're seeing these red flags, go, this is what this person is trying to get me to do. And I'm not. I'm going to come offline now. Right? So talking about things like that with your child is really important. But great contribution. Thank you. And I'll stay on for another couple minutes if anyone would like to talk about anything else or make any comments. All right, I'm going to end the poll there. Thank you for sharing. Feel free to put in the chat anything you feel that you're missing from this, because this is something that we are constantly wanting to develop. So if parents are feeling that they're missing something here, please let us know. We have one more session next week, and we're looking very forward to having you. Again, this is on our YouTube channel if ever you want to revisit this content or share with friends and family. All right, if there is nothing else, I'm going to end there, and thank you so much for your time and your attention today. See you next week. Thank you.